to hear it.
What's going on, y'all? In this video, I'm going to be talking to Connor Daly, who is an assistant coach at Southern Illinois University. We are going to go in depth on the recruiting process. He's going to give his tidbits and insight on, how you can stand out in the world of recruiting, how he goes about his process. Connor has been a coach across multiple levels, from NAIA to JUCO to now the D1 rankings. He's been a part of a national championship team, as well as a player himself in college who's gone through the recruiting process. He scans through, I'm sure, thousands of emails a day and has over the course of his, career. And he's going to have a ton of valuable information. So if you're listening at home, make sure you get your pen and paper ready and start taking notes, because this is going to be jam-packed full of value. So without further ado, Connor Daly.
Woo! Whoop, whoop. Let's get it going.
Nice, man. So let's just jump right into it, man. So I think the first thing that I always like to start off with is the emails. I think a lot of kids are wondering where and how to email coaches. So what are the essential components that players should include in their initial email to a college coach?
I think, obviously you don't want to overdo the whole who you are part. I mean, it needs to be, I would stick to essentials. Who am I? Where am I from? Who do I play for? That's high school and travel organizations. If you've attended showcases near that school that they attended, maybe include that too. Because more likely, if you're reaching out to a school, you probably know if they attended a showcase you were at. After that, any video you have, don't overload it with video. If they really, like, realistically, if they really want to see more, they're going to ask you for more video. I think just like, I hate to say it, like a highlight tape, just get the gist of it so they can at least see how, because the first time they watch you, it's just like, how are we moving? What kind of athlete am I looking at? What's his size look like? How does his size move? Things like that. Any access, because more and more kids have access to, like, in a place where you have analytics or any kind of data driven stuff that, anything that can put a quantifiable number to how good you are at something. I think if you have access to that, it makes everything you're saying that much more reliable, because at the end of the day, somebody's going to check in on some of this stuff one way or the other, or they're going to come get it and find out themselves.
Definitely. So in your opinion, like, how long should the email be? Like, just a quick snapshot, just a couple
I
sentences,
wouldn't go
here's
over,
the highlight tape, and move on.
yes, a solidly constructed paragraph. I think once you go past that, you don't want to lose somebody's interest just because they feel like they're having to sit through words. It's no different than trying to get the hook on writing anything you do in school. Like, you're getting taught something's got to hook somebody, have something in there that, I think, a personalization to it. Like, I don't want to feel like I'm on a bot chain of an
Yeah.
email that you send out. Like, there's connection matters. Like, if at the end of the day, if you're going to come play for somebody, you're going to want to have a connection with them anyway. It needs to start from the very beginning. Nobody really wants to communicate with something that got sent to 30 other people.
Definitely. Definitely.
Right.
So with that in mind, with, kids out there sending it to 30 different people, inboxes are getting probably more and more crowded. How does somebody stand out? There's far and few, between the guys who are throwing elite coming out of high school, 90 plus, 95 plus, like those guys, easy to stand out. A guy who's 6'6", easy to stand out. The
Yeah.
guys who are just like the run of the mill average, looking to get in front of a coach that they, want to go to their school. They know that they can play. Maybe they don't have the velo that sticks out right off the map, but how are they able to stand out? What in their maybe subjects? What in their titles? What can they put?
I think, especially like the example you just gave, like, there's definitely such thing as like late bloomers. Like, my brother, for example, was definitely a late bloomer. Like, he grew 7 inches from his junior to senior year of high school. That changes how things look. So, keeping that in perspective, how do you stand out when maybe physically I don't have a lot to stand out right now, or I'm not throwing really hard right now, or I'm not hitting a ton of homers, or whatever the case may be. I think understanding what it is you are good at and being able to communicate that, because I think so many players are trying to be something they're not. And it's like, if you're not that right now, you're definitely not going to be as good as the guys that are actually good at that, if that makes sense. Versus, like, okay, I'm really fast right now. I can really run. That's my tool that I have. I make good grades. I'm 160 pounds. Listen, I'm really fast right now. I'm athletic. If I gain 20 pounds, I'm confident in what my ability can be. Here's videos of my swings. my swing is there, the foundation is there. I just need to get bigger. I haven't hit my spurt yet. That's just an example, but I think understanding like this is what I'm good at now. I think there's a way for me to get good at this other stuff, and showing in so many words that you have an understanding of what that looks like is a lot different than an email coming from a kid that's like, I mean, this for a specific example, hey, I throw 83, 86, and I'm do this and that, but I really, think I can throw harder. Okay, but why do you think that? Something like that. Any kind of just personal understanding of who you are as an athlete, I think shows a different kind of mentality versus when you're looking at the run of the mill. You have to find a way to separate yourself. Because at the end of the day, like if you are being real with yourself and that's where you feel like you fall, then you are in the run of the mill of exactly what that means. There's a lot more people. And separators, I think a lot of times happen mentally. And if there's a way that you can portray that in an email, then I would definitely suggest doing so.
Definitely. So if you had to give like top three things that are must-haves in an email when reaching out to a coach for the first time, like what would you identify those as?
Player background in terms of where you played in your stats, because they're going to find them anyway. Video, and then I would have references in terms of coaches that can be called.
Wow, references. That's the first time I've heard that. Why is it that references are so important?
Well, I think that anybody can say certain things about themselves, but to hear it about the people that are around you every day is different. And those calls are going to be made. Being willing to put forth those names, I think says something like, hey, these people will speak for me because they've seen what I do. And they know how I go about it. And like, this is just realistic. Anybody can sit here and type an email saying I worked really hard. I bet you typed it really hard too. But at the end of the day, if you're travel ball coach, you're a high school coach, you're a high school assistant coach, like whatever, or maybe some guy you train with, or if it's a Matthew De La Rosa that's calling me, I want to hear what that guy has to say. And if you don't want me to hear what he has to say, what does that say? That kind of, I think it just says something in terms of the people that are around me right now are confident in what I'm able to do. You can talk to them and ask them. And that's how real life's going to be. You're not going to get anything else without a reference.
Definitely. What about red flags? I think in the recruiting world, from what I hear, having a conversations with a lot of coaches, like there's a lot of bad emails that probably clutter your inbox as well. Like, what are some things when you look at an email, you're immediately just crossing it off because you don't even have time for that? Whether it's, hey, you're not doing the certain things physically that I need, or it's how the email is structured, or whatever.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I hate to put this in the subject of red flag, but obviously there are emails that I get where it's like this guy, it just isn't going to be. It's just not to our level. And sometimes there are emails where it's like this guy. I mean, this is just not ready for.
So self-awareness, not having self-awareness.
I think that's definitely part of it, and that's just harsh reality. The other part I think is don't type it like you're texting one of your friends. You need to sound like you can handle yourself professionally. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's a professional email. Like you're trying to take a step up. You don't need to talk. It doesn't need to come across like a text or a tweet that you put out. I think that happens a lot more often than you would think. And then the whole, coaches, comma, I'm probably already moving on. The whole, because like, who all did you send this to?
Yeah.
And if you can't take the time to type out names, and I get it, man, like everybody's sending out a mass email. But like, it's no different than if you got a reply from a coach that said player. I mean, how would that make you feel?
Definitely. In that vein, I've been helping some of the guys in my own program, reaching out to coaches, and it seems like some of the schools have a dedicated email for the entire recruiting process. If you're emailing a school that has a dedicated email that's not going directly to one single coach, which coach would you recommend, or which coaches do you recommend tailoring that to? Obviously, the head coach has to be on there, but is it okay to send an email to a head coach with a pitching coach attached? Is it if you're a pitcher, is it okay to send it to the head coach?
If you're a pitcher and you CC the pitching coach that email, why wouldn't you? Because he's going to be a part of that conversation one way or the other. And at the end of the day, he's probably going to be the one talking to you more.
Well, I'm saying you can't CC, right? Because there's some schools out there who aren't giving their
So just so you're saying how I word it, like who am I talking to when I?
Exactly, right? Because
I
Connor
definitely
Daly
think
might
I
not
would
have
include
his
both,
email public,
like
but Southern Illinois does.
coach, like friend on our Coach Rose and Coach Daly, or
Yeah,
Coach Rose and Coach Trivy, things like that. Like whether it be you're a hitter or maybe in a lot of cases for some high school kids, maybe you're a two-way still recruiting coordinator. Because anytime you can have the recruiting coordinator, like he's going to be involved, so you might as well tailor it as much to him as to anybody.
even over the head coach.
Sometimes, yeah, and I think part of it, it's hard to know because that really just depends on the program, and that's going to be like a feel for the place that you can't have without being there. But them two, especially, I think would be who I would include, especially when it's a mass email. And whenever you're, or not a mass email, but you're sending it to a general, this is our team's email or whatever. Realistically, every coach probably has access, but the recruiting coordinator, or in our case, we have a recruiting coordinator, but then Trivy, our other pitching coach, he also handles a lot of the pitching recruiting. So they're both would be the ones that would be like looking into that, or maybe I would see it. But like definitely, I would tailor it to the recruiting coordinator, or if you're a pitcher, to the pitching coaches.
Definitely, definitely,
They're going to
and
be the ones taking it to the head coach.
yeah. And can you explain from the schools that you've been to, whether they're at the school now or the schools in the previous years, like how do y'all decipher and keep track of all of the players? Like, what does that process look like so that players understand? I'm sure that y'all have a board with different classes. Like, explain what that looks like.
Like a board, a Google Doc. Um, this is our team now. Like there, like, think about it almost like there's names in green that are on the team now. Those names that are green are returning. The names in red are done after this year. Those are the spots we have to fill in. So we know we have to get certain positions filled up. Like you have an idea of how to construct a roster. Like, okay, we have 254 or two senior shortstops. One of them is probably going to play second, but either way, they're both gone. We got to refill our middle infield. Sounds obvious, but like that, sometimes it really is that obvious. Other times it's a little more specific. Like our bullpen struggled last year. We need to go get a bunch of guys that have been true back end guys for their team, so that then we have a whole bullpen of guys that are good enough to throw at the back end of big games. Uh, I think that you flag names and you got guys you're keeping up with. You got guys that you're centered in on. It's almost you can almost think of it as tiers or priority one, priority two. Like these guys, we have offers out to. We're trying to seal a deal. These guys, we're still watching. These guys are next up if these offers don't work out. Like it is kind of a sifting process, and like a lot of ways to think about it as a player is reverse engineer in your perspective, where it's like, okay, that school didn't work out for me. What else is in my tier one options of schools that I want to go to? Because like the thought process in a lot of ways is not much different. It's just from two different points of view. I think that's an effective way to look at it as a player. Like these are the schools that I'm centered in on. I'm going to prioritize my communication with them. Doesn't mean you put everybody else on the back burner, but like you need to be really good at communicating and developing a relationship in the recruit process with the schools that you really think you want to go to. And some of that happens naturally. Like you're going to naturally build up that relationship more than likely with the school that you should end up at, I think. I know we have 21 new players this year, and we're talking more portal JUCO stuff, but like we developed relationships with these guys as we talked to them, and a lot of that had to do with why they ended up here. There's 3 or 4 Power 5 transfers out here that had other options, sometimes bigger schools, but they're like in a different environment now with NIL and stuff. Like, as a school like us, maybe we can offer you a little bit, but you're going to have to really trust that we can get you where you want to go, and that happens through that conversation. And I think, I know I've kind of got off trail here, but like that's what the board looks like. Like these are the guys we have really good rapport with, and we are centered in on them. Then there might be a second layer of the spreadsheet where it's like these are guys that we're also watching. Like the guys that are, it's not like there's a list of people like we don't want these guys. That
Yeah.
list doesn't exist. It's more like they just aren't on the board.
Yeah. You touched on, the portal and JUCO guys coming in. Can you touch on how that impacts high school players getting scholarships at all levels? Obviously, you can't speak for every single school, but you can speak for your school and just your overall opinion on what this transition of the portal and now the NIL has done to the high school players trying to go play at an elite level?
I mean, obviously, it's a loaded and complicated question that differs program to program, like you said. I think some of it is what's the landscape of that program? What is that head coach trying to do? Is he trying to stay there for a really long time and build something? Might be more likely that that guy's getting younger players and willing. A lot of times now, though, I would say it's more of a mix. Like you got to where it's 50-50, 60-40 type deal, where like you have your roster of transfer portal JUCO products, but then also you've been developing and building a high school roster behind them where you're keeping some culture in there, but you're also bringing in pieces that can immediately make your team better. It's no different kind of than a pro team building up their rookies, but then maybe you make a big free agent sign to make your team even better. Kind of a similar process, because that's ultimately what we're looking at is it's turning into more of a professional look in terms of how you manage a roster. At least that's how I view it. More of a GM mindset sometimes for some of these bigger programs. And like, where do you fit in? And I was at a camp the other day with high school kids in St. Louis, and the head coach was talking about getting in where you fit in. And you kind of got to look at what has this program been doing? Or like, if you looked at us right now and I'm a high school kid, I probably wouldn't be looking as strongly as I may have looked here 2 years ago, or maybe in 2 years, because this past year, we loaded up a portal roster with JUCO guys, and a lot of them still have 2 years left. So a lot of them are going to be back here next year. Now, at the end of next year, different look. Maybe you're sending us emails because you know they're going to have to completely reload. And then there's an example like Evansville last year in our conference that they made a run on guys that have been there for 5 years because they're a high school driven program. They sign high school kids. Like you kind of just have to look at the rosters. It'll tell you what you need to know.
Yeah.
And what not. It's realistically worth your time. That's not to say that if it's a school that you really have your sights set on, that you just don't look into it, because we still do have we have two freshmen out here, and one of them is going to be really good. It just depends on the program. Some teams might have 15 of those type guys. In our situation right now, we just happen to only have two.
Yeah.
But I know like you watch that. All I'm saying is there's a lot of different ways to be successful still, even though it might be portrayed like there's only one way now, because you watched that Evansville team make a regional run last year, a super regional run with a team that had been together for 4 or 5 years. So I think a lot of it's got to do with identifying what the landscape of that program is and knowing that, okay, they're bringing in high school kids. This is where those kids fell. I'm right there with those guys.
Yeah.
And I want to go to this school. And then you start reaching out or find a way to get in front of them. There's a lot of avenues to get in front of guys now, whether it be, and with social media, I think.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that on social media, but you're making some good points that I want to go deeper on with getting in front of them. I think what you provided, let me just backtrack here for everybody that's listening, like take your time, do your research on the schools and make sure that it's a place that you fit in. Because of a place that you want to actually go to, and there's a need for your skill set, or if you're a freshman and you're trying to go to a school that only has juniors and seniors, and every single one of them coming in as a JUCO guy, chances are probably not the right fit for you because that coach only brings in JUCO guys or transfer guys. So you'll want to sift that out. When it comes to getting seen, right? I think that there's a big debate right now within the high school rankings of showcases and all of that stuff. Like showcases compared to on-site campus visits, compared to, just playing at high school, like how are the most effective strategies, or what are the most effective strategies to getting in front of like a school you want to go to?
I think that if you have a specific school in mind and they're holding something and you can get there, then great. And you should, because that's a guarantee to get in front of them. But like to that point, no matter where you are in front of whoever, you're going to have to do something to stand out regardless. Getting in front of them is only half the battle, right? And again, I know we're going to talk about it more, but part of this is, I know part of the debate that's talked about is like, are they more likely to come to high school games or are they more likely to come to our showcase games? Is it hard for some colleges to get out further away to high school games in the spring because it's during our season? Yes. Doesn't mean that there are, like, I know a lot of schools, and especially back in like North Carolina, like we were definitely still out in the spring in the midweeks at high school games because there's so many schools around. And that's just a specific example. Kind of can depend on, regionally what you're looking at or whatnot. But then maybe there's high school kids from further away. Like if you're talking about big schools, they're hammering those showcase circuits in the summer because that's where the best high school players are. Um,
Can you touch on, your schedule for recruiting players? I think a lot of people don't necessarily know how coaches spend their time recruiting players, whether it's in season, during the summer, during the fall. Are you guys always recruiting? Is there somebody dedicated to that always? Like, how does the coach get out to see these players?
I would definitely say that it doesn't necessarily stop. Obviously, for every level, there's certain, like for Division 1, there's dead periods. Like we're in one right now, where we're not out looking actively because you can't be. And like those dead periods, I don't even have them off the top of my head, but like they're publicly out there where everybody knows where they are. So like, if you reach out and you don't hear anything during that time, and it would be about 2 weeks ago through the beginning of Thanksgiving, and if you don't hear anything during that time, it's because you can't. But in the summer, it's nonstop. Everybody's on the road on the staff or on the computer looking or on the phone calling. The summer is pretty much a nonstop circuit of recruiting. And in the fall, it goes back and forth. Again, depends on what the school's doing. They might have two guys hitting the JUCO and two guys hitting high school. They might have all their guys at JUCO. It just depends. Because obviously in the fall, I think it's important to remember, and even early summer, the portal stuff hasn't really hit form yet. It's not as active. The middle to end summer, the portal is crazy, right? You're talking about middle or in June, and then you don't want to really be caught up. If I'm in high school, I would try to be caught up in that time as least amount as possible.
So that brings
Uh,
me to my next question of like, when are the best times to be going to these showcases and visiting schools? Like, is it beginning of summer because the portal's not as active? Is it during fall? Is it during the spring season? Like, what do
I
you,
think
what do you,
beginning of summer and fall, you're gonna have a hard. I mean, I don't know how everywhere else does it, but like spring visits can be tough just because you have your season going on, and then in the middle of the week, high school kids have school. Doesn't mean they don't come down. Because I remember like coaching junior college, we had a lot of high school kids that would come on visits in the middle of the week or come to games. So it's not like visits aren't taken in the spring. I think it definitely just depends on where you're looking. But spring, fall, the summertime is going to be it. I think now is a really tough time for high school kids. That's what I think. Just because I think there's so much going on, and colleges are at summer ball games or honestly on Twitter and on the phone
yeah,
hitting portal guys like crazy because you probably are by the summer you probably already have your high school roster part of it taken care of.
yeah. So with showcases, this will be my last one on showcases. Like, yeah, I think that showcases are great for anybody listening, but I think that there's, some diluted. I think it's just a diluted service in
Limitations.
some
Yeah.
areas. Like, I want to understand, how and when, players should be going to these showcases. Like, when do they know? How do they know which ones to go to? What makes sense in your mind as far as like showcases as opposed to, on campus visits?
uh, I think to just generally put yourself out there, showcase may not be unbelievably effective because like if you're going to one where there's like 200 kids, unless you're just about to do some numbers off the charts, you don't want to get lost in the mix. If it's one at a school that they are specifically running and maybe it's a smaller group, great, especially if you're interested in that school because it makes more sense. You can have some conversations. You could run to a campus school with 200 kids and not even see a coach. And then it's like, I mean, you'll see them around, but no interaction unless it's super forced. And like, you don't really want to find yourself in that situation. Now, don't get me wrong. If you have a school that you have your sights set on, and maybe you've been talking to them like, hey man, come out to our camp, obviously you go. That's a different situation. But if it's anytime you can get in something where it's a little more concentrated, I think that's better. Um, and then just kind of look at what the roster looks like of those camps if it's available, or if you just know how many kids are going to be there. That's not an easy thing to sift through necessarily, just because there's it's propaganda out the wazoo about how it can do this and that. And, that's great. I think there is no perfect answer to this question.
Yeah.
I you just got to pick your times wisely and, try and put yourself in the best situations that are, productive to whatever it is you're trying to do versus maybe this is just, I'm going to this just because they say all these schools are going to be here. That may not be your most productive move.
Yeah. No, the travel ball, I wouldn't say the travel ball, but definitely the showcase circuit has seemed to gotten in a place that's uncharted territories. I don't think it was, like this years ago, and now,
They would get
places
tired
are
of the
seeing
ones
a way to
there'll be
make
50
money.
people there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think if you're listening to this, understand that like behind every showcase, there's somebody at the back of the, bus making a ton of money off of that. So they don't necessarily have your best interest in mind as far as like come here and like we'll get you to the school. Now there are some showcases out there that might, but for a lot of them, it's just like how many guys can we pump into this? I'll be
They're trying
I'll
to get
I'll be the
numbers
one to
there.
say it. Those schools are getting paid to be there. They're not coming out of the kindness of their heart to like find talent. Some of those coaches are getting paid a stipend and they're literally just there to collect a check because that's how some of their assistant coaches get paid. Now they might find a dude while they're there. Obviously, they're always, got their eyes open, but they're not there with the same intention as, a school camp that they're putting on or, a local one that they're putting on. So just understand that when you're making your decisions on showcases.
Like I wouldn't count on, okay, I'm going to a camp at this school. It says this other school that I like is going to be there. I wouldn't count on that being the guy that's going to change your life at that school.
Yeah.
If you're going to a camp at that school that you're interested in, it's a little different.
Yeah. Yeah. So
But
moving on to a separate topic. Oh, sorry. What was that?
no, you're good. You're good.
Oh, moving on to a separate topic. Outside of, just raw ability, right? You've got a guy that you like, that you see, he's got the talent. What are the other qualities that are going to help bring that guy into a program that you see?
And I can speak to this just because this is kind of how we attacked recruiting this offseason, like just trying to get a certain kind of dude. Like, and this goes back to what I said about what are the people that are around you say about you? How do you go about your business? Or if we come to watch you in person, like how does he carry himself when he does well? How does he carry himself when he does poorly, when the team does poorly, whatever? I went and watched a kid this summer who was really talented. I mean, he hit 2 homers on the first two at bats. I was at the game. So, like, granted, I'm sitting there like, okay, yeah, this guy's a dude. But at the same time, like when he was not up, he's on the top step. This is summer ball, so he's known these guys for a month, and you know how it is. But he's bought in. I mean, Tal on the front step, into it. He gets on deck. I mean, timing stuff up. I mean, he went from amped up to locked in like that, and not everybody can do that. And like that kid is into it. He doesn't have to be like he could come out here and get his swings in, and that could be it. And he's in the portal, so there's necessarily anybody checking him on this. This is just who he is. And like we went out and specifically went for like in like the way we put it because we are the Salukis, like we're trying to go get dogs. Like I want somebody that, and saying it and being it are two different things. And we had a lot of this goes back to just having conversations and like actually trying to get to know the kind of guys we're getting. Like we have a big country kid named Gav, and he's hay bale strong. He reminds me of Tad Ratliff, like and got that just like you're tough for no reason other than you're from the backwoods.
Yeah.
And like they were cleaning up at this middle school, and he picks up. They got this dunk tank, and it's like, "Yo, Gav, you're big. Like you can probably figure out how to load this on the truck. Load it in 8 minutes." Sounds silly, but like it's those kind of guys. Like, I'm gonna get this done. Like, what do you mean? One way or the other, I'm gonna find a way to get it done. And that's who he is. And like we went out and went for those kind of guys. Like, yes, he went 17-1 in 2 years in junior college. But
You got to throw that in there.
he's also 85, 88 lefty, but he don't throw he like even metrically, nothing's off the charts. It's deceptive. He has an unorthodox delivery, but he's nails, man. And like that stuff matters. And so, you can't fake that. You can fake it in one or two phone calls, but you can't fake it, at least not to this staff and to us. Like I'm looking in your eyes, and I'm trying to figure out who I'm talking to. And I think like if you came out to our practice today, you'd be like, okay, they went out and specifically went for tough-minded people. And it shows because if you have a directive, like a team, if you're looking at a college perspective, like they're going out, and there's no way for you to know this other than you should know that you want to be a part of a program that's like this because they're trying to go get guys that compete. I think there's a lot of talent out there now, and kids get developed even earlier. And a lot of them think they look good, but like, are you tough?
Yeah.
And I think that nowadays more than ever, it makes me sound older than I am, but like toughness is toughness, and just having the ability to compete. Like, were you out in the yard going at it with your boys playing wiffle ball growing up, or were you not that kind of guy? Or would you take the elbow in a 3-on-3 pickup game because it's like, nah, bro, I'm not losing. And I mean, you were that kind of guy. I was that kind of dude
Made a
in terms of
mistake.
competing. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Think about some of the guys. Our best competitors were like that when we played anything. It could have been ping pong, and like we have a ping pong table in our clubhouse, and this year it's a completely different environment just off ping pong because we just have pure competitors in our locker room.
Yeah.
So like,
The guys who want to compete in everything.
I mean, yeah, like it sounds so simple, but like
The
be
baseball.
dialed. Yeah, everything. There is nothing small to guys that are like that. Like, I'm winning, period. And I think that you can portray that if that's who you really are.
Yeah. Now moving to like a quantifiable outlook on a kid, like what are some things that are gonna what are some metrics? I know that they're not like across the board, this is exactly what needs to happen, but like what are some metrics that some of these young bucks out here listening can strive for, whether it's in pitching, I know that that's what you handle, and then as well as, the hitting aspect. Like what are some things that I guess when they're reaching out to a coach that if they do this at a certain level or have this as a certain number, they should be including in an email. ERA, WHIP, walks to strikeouts, velo, you know.
Obviously, like any general stats that are like, I think the general baseball guy is going to know that they're important. Like ERA is great, but like don't put that on there and then leave out the fact that you walked 40 and 60 innings or something like that. Like, they're going to go
Would you
low.
rather see they just like owned up and just said like, here's
Put it
my
on there,
walks?
brother. Don't hide. Don't hide. I personally, I can't stand that because I'm gonna go look. I would like to go look and just see that you put everything on here for me because like this kid isn't scared and it isn't gonna get better if you can't even own it in an email, right? Like, yeah, coach, I had like walks were up, but like I've been working on this and that, and now this summer, like let's say for example, this summer my walks are way down, and I think I fixed it. Whatever. Um, there's a lot of different ways to look at that. I'm trying to think. I just think that I don't metrically, like obviously velo, like put your velos on there, don't lie. If you have access to TrackMan, like,
Would you
and you
rather
have enough,
see
it's just tough because what's the high school kids understanding of what those numbers are? Do
yeah.
you have access to them?
Would you rather see them put like their top velocity that they hit like once in a blue moon, or would you rather see like their true average of what they consistently sit?
If I would put my range. There's nothing wrong with putting your PR. Like, this is what I topped at because you're showing the top end of where you're at right now. And maybe somebody sees it and like, okay, we can get him to maintain this because clearly he's capable of showing it. Like, don't put I throw 91 and you hit 91. But if you're like, I say 688, I've top 91, sweet. And then I see a kid that maybe I watch your video now and I see where the 91 is and why it isn't there all the time. And like, if I can visibly kind of, granted, it's not 100% sure, like, oh, yep, can fix that, but I can see where maybe there's stuff leaking, or maybe we're losing some efficiency, or whatever the case may be, or we put 10 pounds on this kid, he's sitting 91, whatever the example is. I think being more realistic and then have a video to coincide with those numbers to say, okay, you can kind of start to put together forms of a full image of what you're looking at and what it could be, versus nobody's pulling the trigger on somebody. They're having to guess about, well, maybe it'll be like this, or you're trying to get as many details as you can ultimately to put together what you think you can do with somebody.
Do you think anybody cares about strength metric numbers? Is that something that y'all are interested in seeing as well? Obviously, there's a huge correlation in both. I don't know why somebody would call it out, but also, as we both know, like there's a pretty good correlation between like what you're doing in the weight room and like what your, max output is on the baseball field.
I think that that could be good to put on there. Um, I think especially like yeah, like main lifts, like pitchers, like maybe you deadlift numbers are really high, squat numbers are really high, whatever. I think there's all right, even for hitters like bat speed, things like that. You don't want to go overboard with anything and like just drown somebody in info, but stuff that like this goes back to what I said earlier. These are things metrically that I do well that also contribute to the stuff I do well on the field. Like this is my top sprint speed. This is my 60. These are how many stolen. See what I'm saying? Like it all kind of like, oh, he's fast and he can run the bases. Or I'm not that strong yet, but I have a ton of bat speed. I hit a lot of doubles. I put on 20 pounds. Those doubles are homers. Things like that, because then people can kind of start to create their own chain where it's like, okay, like you're back chaining it to, I see where this has started. This is where it could be versus, kid hit 8 doubles and 4 homers. And that's really all you have to go off of it. You can, is it enough? I don't know. But like if you have access to more and can give more information, I don't see any downside to doing so, especially when it's quantifiable stuff, like tangible things that people can look at. I don't think a lot of times it's better than a bunch of words.
Yeah. What about grades? Moving into that, right? So the player's good, maybe he's a iffy guy on the fence. Like, how important are grades truly? Right? Everybody hears the cliche, like grades will open up doors. Like, how are grades weighted in, you know, collegiate baseball compared to a player's, profile makeup?
I think they matter a lot. I think it also goes back to what you said earlier. Like, if you're really competitor, like you even find a way to compete in the classroom, or you did, it doesn't mean you're spanking straight A's, but there's no way you're accepting a bunch of season D's if you're really take yourself serious. At least not in what I've seen. And most of the time, they go hand in hand. Guys that start struggling in the classroom typically start struggling on the field in some manner. Uh, but in terms of just like being a high school kid, I definitely think one, it matters in terms of how much money you're going to be able to get a specific place. Anytime they can get more money from the academic side to pair with your baseball money, that's an advantage. You don't want to be, oh, we're moving around all this baseball money because there's no way this kid's going to get academic money.
Yeah, go deeper on that. Explain how that process works with academic scholarships compared to athletic scholarships.
So I know now, like they're going more and more away from standardized test scores. I think, and I'm not 100% sure on this. I know that it varies state to state, but let's just talk in terms of GPA. At certain schools, depending on what your GPA is, you'll get this amount of scholarship money or merit based, depending on like if you're in a liberal arts school, it's private, those numbers would be higher because the school is higher. That just kind of correlates. No different. Like LR would give more uh scholarship money for academics just off merit versus like ours would be less because it's a public school. But at the same time, like you're still going to get academic, like there's academic scholarships for certain kids with certain grades. I think like anything above a 3.0, you're probably going to get some kind of academic money. Above a 3.5, I'd say you're guaranteed something. And even if it's not through the school, like they'll go and find academic scholarships that are like ran through the school from outside people and like people will find a way to get you money to get you somewhere, especially nowadays because the rules are a little less tense with NIL. Like there's a lot of ways because it matters there too, depending on what you're going to have access to in an offer at a high school and where you're looking and what they have access to. Like nobody's going to give you money if you can't even handle your business in terms of your school.
Yeah.
It's a responsibility. And like, hey, it's no different than the real world and the contract. Like I'm not paying you this if I can't guarantee that you can handle what you have to do in order to do what makes you money, which is play.
Yeah. I think a lot of kids, again, are sold the, hey, get good grades and they know, but also when you're sold that, you want to know for what reason. Obviously, it's for a scholarship, but can you just touch on like how much easier it makes their lives and recruiting process if the grades are,
There
very
is a 100% more likely chance that somebody checks you off for your grades being bad than like almost any, like I can't tell you how many kids we've had where it's like, I mean, no, we're not even going to be able to do anything for them because his grades are so bad. And you just, why even put yourself in that situation because it's completely controllable. But also, it's just like when we look at it, it's going to be easier for us to get him into school, easier for to pay his way to school, and we can offer him more to get him to come, like because you have and it's because of what you've done. We're able to give you more, and like, why would you? Everybody wants more money to come to school, and part of your part is that like if you handle your part, you're going to get rewarded for it in this sense. This is a pretty much direct thing. Like if you do your part on this side, it will be easier for you on this side in terms of recruiting. You don't want to be a kid somebody's looking at, we're going to have to figure out how we can get him here. You don't want to be that kid. Because not only that, when let's say that they do find a way to get you on campus and now you're here, they're on you, man. Because now they're already thinking about this could be a liability. Like if he isn't going to take care of this, and like it ain't going to be easy for you when you get to wherever you're going, because you'll be checked more than anybody to make sure you're on top. Because as soon as you not prove, but show that you can't handle the responsibility of the school here, that money gets taken away if you can't maintain your grades. So you might as well. I think the biggest point I would make there is that you might as well be in the practice of taking care of it now, because if you can't take care of it later, you just will not be able to play.
Yeah.
And like that's what everybody wants to do. And you don't want to be not playing because of something that again you have control over.
Yep. No, that's great, man. Take care of your grades. Take care of your grades.
Show up half the time.
Yeah. I tell kids all the time, 80% of life is just showing up. Show up, turn it in on time, probably roll out of there with a minimum of a B.
Albert Jr. style.
Yeah. We touched on this a little bit at the beginning, and it's the highlight videos. What goes into a good highlight video and what goes into a bad highlight video? Like, what do you want to see? What are some things that kids need to be and parents need to understand about making these videos when they're crafting them?
It doesn't need to be. My biggest thing is don't make it an overflow of practice reps. I'm just not. Most people aren't very interested in just watching you take hacks in a cage or watching you take grounders, or even in a pitching sense. Like I don't like if you have video of you in a facility throwing a bullpen and the velo is good, but I also want to see it in a game. Like the highlight tape needs to be what it says, a highlight of you in games, not a highlight of you practicing. And I've seen stuff where it's just like it'll be like 2 minutes of practice tape and then 30 minutes of ABs or something like, or 30 seconds of ABs.
I was about to say 30 minutes, bro. They just uploaded a short for a movie.
Don't do that. I can tell you that right now. But like, because this is what I was hitting at earlier. Like, okay, here's 4 doubles, 4 homers that I hit last year. And like, let's say you stole some bases, throw a couple of those on there. If you're a catcher, you throw your pops, only a couple. And then if they want more, they're going to get more. Like they'll be, hey, if you have like anytime I want more video from a kid, I ask. It's never one of those things where like he sends me so much and I'm like, oh yeah, dude, like keep it coming. Like I don't want to be overlooked. Like you want them to see what they need to see, not having to sift through and find like hit the points. If it looks good, like obviously, if you're a pitcher and you just throwing up a bunch of tape from one game and it's obvious that it's just one game, and then I go look and it's like, oh, this is why this was his only good game last year. Like, I mean, you need to be aware of that. I don't know how you combat that, but you need to be aware of that. Show the full range, show your stuff. But again, don't make it too long. It just needs to hit the points, because if somebody, okay, really like how the fastball looks, can you send us some more tape of your fastball? Or if you have any metrics available, will you send us the metrics on your fastball? Stuff like that. Simplicity is good, but just it's about being direct. Like, this is where I do good, highlight it in the tape.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much everything that I had there. I mean, get game footage. If you've got practice footage, there's nothing wrong with it, but also don't hide behind only practice swings or bullpens, and avoid keeping your videos crazy long. Coaches don't want to see them. They're going through how many would you say that you're going through weekly?
A lot.
As a staff, how many are y'all going through? Over, hundreds, thousands?
Thousands is probably a stretch.
Maybe the big
I
schools.
uh,
Not to discredit. Maybe like a big
also
school.
no, I mean you're definitely right, but also it's like, how many of them are you? How many are we receiving, or how many are we watching? And you have to be real about that because like you don't watch everyone that comes in, and like to say that we do would be a lie, um, because some of them come through and like again, if it's a mass email, like I'm more likely we're not opening it. If now, granted, we'll watch the video. Now, sometimes you get turned off immediately by something. Like, I think everybody can probably figure out what something like if it's just bad, you know.
Bad
Uh,
quality.
yeah,
Bad.
I mean that it sounds mean to say, but it's also just like this is just the truth of what we're talking about. Like it needs to look good. It needs to be presented well. Like it's a presentation ultimately. Present it well. You're presenting yourself. Uh, do it in a way that you'd be proud of. And I think that the rest will take care of itself. And put it out there. Like I know we're going to talk about it, but like it's not as simple as just, don't just send it to coaches specifically. That's part of it, but put it out there on social media because you might find out somebody you weren't even thinking about is into it, you know, and then that something clicks there, and next thing you know, you're developed a relationship with a coach you never thought you met, and you're at a school that you love.
Yeah, that's actually the
I,
next topic here for social media. But before we get into that with the highlight videos, like where do you go? Like where do you like to watch these videos? You like to get them in Google Drive? You like to get them from some kid's Twitter? You like to get them from YouTube? Do you like to watch vertical compared to horizontal? Like how is it that you want to see, or
I
how
don't want
should
it to be
kids?
visually difficult. Obviously, the clearer the video, the better. Not behind like as much as you can. Not, and I know it's hard for kids to get videos sometimes. But like if it's coming from behind chain link or something like that can be really tough. And like it happens. And like I recruited a kid at Southeastern that every video I had of him in game was on a South Florida field behind chain link, but he's throwing like 94. So I'm like, you can see that it looks good even through the chain link, but like
If
trying to
real
get
quick, tip if you're a parent out there watching this or a kid who wants to tell their parents, like obviously they're going to take the video of you and you're going to be behind chain link fences when you're in game. Like that's a guaranteed, unless for some reason the field is doesn't have a backstop.
just
Just
part
take
of
your
it.
phone and put the camera up through the chain link so that it's gone. Like, and also one of the things that I'll throw out there for everybody listening, this is free piece of advice, so valuable. No coach wants to hear your mom or your dad being like, "Come on, Jimmy,
Yeah,
throw a
dude.
strike
You just have to
here."
say it.
Like, cut the
I'm glad they
audio.
love you. I'm glad
Don't put
they
the
love you.
audio in there. Like, get rid of it because that's one of the things. Like, they're gonna
It
laugh. They're gonna laugh at you. It's
is.
unfortunate, but they're gonna laugh at you for
And now you've caught their attention for a different reason.
it.
um, but I think the clearer the video, the better. Try and get, you know, a clear angle. Like if you're a pitcher, try and get somebody toward on like towards the first or third base side dugout. Depending on you, you don't want to be too restricted by the catcher, umpire, batter. Like I want to be able to kind of see how you move. It can be hard from a phone video from behind home to see that.
Couple different
Um,
angles. Throw a couple
yeah,
different angles at the
you know,
coaches.
and look, phone cameras are nice now. You can get good video that's good enough. Um, and you know, I think Twitter's great to have it like that, but like any way it comes to me in an email, if it's just don't make it hard for me to access it. Like if it's downloaded and I can just click it and it opens up, great. If it's a Google thing, that's fine. I just it doesn't need to be difficult to get to. The
Yeah.
easier it is to get to, the better, I would say. And
One of the easiest things y'all can do if you're worried about whether it's easy or not, like send it to somebody else
yeah,
before you send it to a
trial
coach and
runs,
like see
trial
how
runs are
easy
great.
it is.
No
Like,
problem with trial runs.
yeah, because I'll tell you, you could be the best unless you're throwing 94 or claiming that you're, hitting bombs 390 feet in high school or 450 feet, whatever. Like, if a coach has difficulty opening up your stuff, he ain't gonna sit there and figure out how to open it. He's just gonna
Mm,
move on. He's just gonna move
yeah.
on, and like you just lost yourself, the opportunity to be seen for the sole fact that you didn't want to take the 2 minutes to send it to somebody to make sure, like, hey, how does this open? How does this look on your
And
phone?
think
Like,
about it like you would be receiving it. Like I think and this is me too. Like I think that when I was coming up, like I would put a ton of pressure on the email or a ton of pressure on whatever I was sending out. But like at the end of the day, like what negatively can this isn't necessarily on topic, but nothing negatively can really come from it putting
No.
yourself out there. Like,
Yeah.
what are they going to do? The worst
It-
case scenario, you're right where you were.
so
And
go ahead. Sorry.
I just think that this is partly from, I just wish somebody would have said this to me, but like, because it wasn't like a confidence thing. I just felt like I was bragging almost, or like you're just like, part of it is, man, you're not going to hype yourself up. Nobody else is going to, you know, no, don't take your ego and take it on a ride, but like be realistic, but be direct and have some confidence in what you're saying. Because if you don't, I mean, it does come through in wording, or it'll come through in how you put it. As weird as that sounds, like it does. Like this kid wasn't hiding nothing. It was direct. He said what he had to say. He put it all out here. Great. I think it says something.
And back to the email real quick from the very beginning. The email's sole purpose is to spark a conversation. I think a lot of kids think that like, oh, this email is gonna ride or die on whether or not I get the scholarship offer or
Yeah.
anything. Like
Yeah.
literally the only thing that email is designed to do is to get somebody to open it and respond to you. If they do that, it worked, right?
That's
Like
all we
it,
need. You
so
know, I 100% agree.
yeah. So the last topic here, and I leave it as last because for those that are watching, I want you to listen all the way through so that you can come through and get the good information at the end. I should have led with that. Is social media, right? Like social media is playing a huge part and is a huge piece in the entire machine of how recruiting is going about its business nowadays. Like, what are some do's and don'ts when it comes to being recruited in social media?
So I'll just start with, I think there's a lot more ways to get cross off of social media than there are to get like positives. So don't overdo it on there. Um, and just be conscious of what you're saying. Like if you wouldn't say it to a coach or around a coach, I would, and you plan on playing for a while, I would not put it on Twitter. And that includes what you retweet and stuff like that. I think some kids like they'll thoughtlessly retweet something because they didn't say it themselves. Like it's still on your page forever.
And liking it.
Uh, yeah, and liking it. Like just because it's as simple to me as being conscious of what you're doing and have the awareness that it speaks about who you are, whether you like it or not. And at the end of the day, it's what you're doing. So it is, I mean, accept it or don't, but it's speaking about you one way or the other. Um, don't have, too much in your bio to where people can't tell what it says. Like pinned tweets are great. Um, pick your pin tweet wisely. Like
Yeah,
I would put,
that's one of my questions is like what should if they're trying to get recruited, I think it's so simple to just give this general information. If you're in the process of being recruited for a sport, particularly baseball, if you're watching this, just go ahead and make your pin post a highlight reel of you doing some sort of baseball. Like it's the easiest form of marketing. It's free. Anybody who joins your page is going to see it, and that's what you ultimately want to showcase to the.
and like you're pinning your priority. This is my priority. My priority is to get recruited. And so when you pop on my page, it says, this is who I am. This is who I play for, whatever teams they are. Here's my contact information. First tweet, boom, you playing. And maybe it has some velo or exit velocity or whatever under it. But that pin tweet should probably be the most general one. If let's say you have some specific game stuff that's on there, let it filter down your page. That pin tweet should be the highlight thing that we're talking about, where it shows everything. Here's maybe it's your stats from last year or your stats from summer and spring combined. I will say on that, because that can be tricky, and like college kids do it all the time, where they'll put these are my combined spring and summer stats, and their spring stats for garbage and their summer stats for good. Like you're not
I
fooling
did.
anybody. Right. And like, so just if it is that case, go ahead and separate them and just be real about it.
Because what does
Uh,
that show you? That shows you that they were able to make like you spin it however you want. Like if you had a crummy spring and a great summer, like guess what? You made the adjustment. And now you're showing the ability to improve and get better. That's better to a coach than here, let me
so I
hide
think,
behind my failures.
yes. And like, again, like, social media is an extension of you, whether like, and if you don't like that, then don't have it. Or put it under a different name, one way or the other, because that's just the way it is. And it is a big part of just people connecting now. I think in terms of specific platforms, like Twitter is X, whatever, is definitely the primary. There's like Instagram, whatever. Twitter would be where it's happening. I wouldn't really worry about anything else. And it's easy to send tweets to coaches like with your videos, so that's an advantage. The other thing, I've talked about this before, and I heard a couple of coaches talk about it, our recruiting talk, because I've worked a couple high school camps the last 3 weekends. It's great to hype up your boys, but like I don't need to scroll through 18 retweets of all the boys on your showcase team doing whatever they're doing just to figure out. By the time I've got through 18 of those, I already forgot your name. Like I don't even remember which name I'm looking for in here anymore. Like couple here and there, great. Or during signing season, maybe they sign, heck yeah, my boy committed, great, but like you need to be like, at the end of the day, it is a promotional tool for yourself. And like it's great to promote your boys, but like you're still in the process of being promoted yourself. Don't make it hard to find. And that has gone with everything we're saying.
Yeah.
But I don't think that you can necessarily, I mean, I guess there is too much to put out on Twitter, but like putting out film on there isn't bad ever, really. And also it's a very easy platform to be able to send it to coaches. And again, remember, they get sent a lot of tweets. If they don't reply automatically, don't freak out. We signed a kid this summer and I didn't see the tweet he sent me for 2 weeks, which my bad, not a great look on my part. But then I found it and I was like, oh my gosh, this kid's good. And then we made a move and it happened really fast.
Yeah.
And I joke with him now that he's on campus. I'm like, dude, 2 weeks, man, 2 weeks. I was sitting around just blowing it, giving him a hard time. And he's like, yeah, coach, I was just waiting on you, and then like, it's just funny to joke about. But like, again, I think that it's I guess, as valuable a resource in our game right now as anything, just because that's just where it's happening. Everybody's on there. My brother and I were talking the other day because he's like, I'm about to delete all my social media. And I'm like, even if I wanted to, I couldn't, because you have to have it, because like all the players are on there, high school to everybody.
Yeah.
Another thing, I just thought of this. If it is transfer portal season, let's say you're a junior in high school, or even a sophomore, and you're still thinking about getting recruited in a summer ball season, and Twitter is an insane forum in that time of year, because every tweet, transfer portal arm. Put high school arm in that time, even if it's just that time of year, but high school class of whatever before the tweet. Otherwise, you're going to get sifted into those portal tweets. And then they're going to have you stacked up in a tweet. You're 16 and you're going to be stacked up in a tweet with some 22-year-old from Texas. You don't really want to be, that ain't how you were going to want to be going back and forth.
Yeah, so against Matt Del Rosa 2020.
See what I'm saying?
No,
Come on.
that
way when they search it, you pop up under high school arms or class of whatever.
That's great value right there. I mean, if that's all you got out of this, that's probably going to save you a ton of time and help you get seen in front of a lot more coaches during the summertime.
It would help a lot more. It happened because I would just see them. Like I'd be transfer portal, arm looking for a school, and I'm like, wait, what? And it was a high school kid. I'm like, brother, you need to get up out of this Twitter reel and you need to be over here on the left, so that you're getting seen by people that are looking like they need to be looking for that. You know what I mean? Get in where you fit in. It kind of all goes together.
Yeah. So last question I have here, and then we'll leave with some final thoughts. When is the ideal time for a player to start reaching out in their recruiting process if they're in high school? Freshman year, if they've got some talent, sophomore year, wait. I mean, with how recruiting is nowadays, it seems like more schools are building their teams on a yearly basis for next year because of how the transfer portal has impacted guys. They're not really building out, or at least a lot of schools aren't necessarily building out a high school pipeline of guys earlier. What do you think?
I think it's definitely later now. Like, it's definitely not freshmen. Most schools, Division I, I don't even think we're allowed to talk to freshmen. It would be sophomore year going into that summer or even that spring, or just start even if there's a way to start developing conversations, even if they start really small. I think that's when that starts. Obviously, sophomore, summer, junior year for some schools it heats up, and then that junior season it heats up a lot. Senior year doesn't mean you're out of the mix. I think it just depends. I mean, there's just so many examples. Like this is an extreme, like Charlie Condon, like is a late bloomer. Like that's an extreme example. But I mean, I'm pretty sure if I'm not mistaken, he committed to Georgia like halfway through his senior year of high school. You just it nobody's timeline is the same.
As a walk-on too, I believe.
Yeah, preferred, I mean, which is nuts. But like he weighed 170 pounds.
Yeah.
So like to that very point, everybody's timeline is different. Don't get caught up in what other people are doing. It's very easy to see like, oh, these kids are all doing this, and that guy just took a visit. Like I haven't taken one yet. Like what am I doing? It doesn't really have anything to do with you. You just need to keep doing what you're doing, get good at what you're good at, know what you're good at, get better at it, fix what you're bad at. Do your part, and then chips fall where they may as you go through your process. But like I think definitely that sophomore, junior year time, you start just trying to maybe establish contact. And then if nothing's popped for you by then, your senior year, in that fall going into your senior season or the summer before, really start punching out like communication just to try and get people's eyes on you. Even if it's again, it might be 100 times that I personally messaged somebody, like trying to get their attention. But like, what if 25 of them come watch you?
Yeah.
There's a chance you
Also, to that note, we said it in the last video if you had an opportunity to watch that. But if you reach out to coaches and they're not getting back to you, do not take that as a sign of like they don't want you. If they don't want you, you'll know it by the time that you reached out for the 100th time and they don't get back to you. But like until they tell you no, like just keep reaching out because they are constantly looking at different emails and you might progress. Maybe now you're not a priority, or maybe now priorities aren't focused on recruiting your position, and so like they're turning the other cheek. But then you reach out 4 or 5 months and they're like, okay, we got to get a right-handed back end bullpen guy. Here we go.
And to that point, like you don't want to rub anybody the wrong way, okay? And you don't want to be, no matter how these interactions go or what notes you get, you don't burn any bridges or treat anybody like this. Sounds like a given, but like in today's, what if you end up going to junior college and then in a year that kid, like I talked to this dude out of high school and now we're going to make it happen. Like we have one of those kids on our team right now and he's going to be an absolute dude for us. And we got him fast this offseason because there have been rapport developed 2 years ago. You never know when connections are going to come back in, and in the way things are now, whether you go to a 4-year and end up in the portal, or you go JUCO and end up like, you just never know who you might end up talking to, or where that coach might be next. You don't handle yourself right in all conversations, and like sometimes, and I'll say this, even if a coach is being rude, because it will happen. Whatever, man, like that, no need to reciprocate if it comes off as somebody's being rude, like just on to the next. That ain't the place for me. And move on.
Connor, you provided a ton of value. If you're still watching this, I mean, you should know exactly step by step kind of how to reach out to coaches. This is just an absolute masterclass on recruiting. Give us your final, takeaways, your, last thoughts on what you would give to somebody who's currently being recruited or about to be recruited.
I think just because a lot of this is going to be tailored to like high school parents and high school kids.
We'll get to the college kids later. Don't worry. There's something in the works for our JUCO boys out there. Hey, JUCO for me, yeah. We're going to take care of you guys.
No doubt. And like, I think, and the reason I say that is because what I'm about to say would be more tailored to them. I think that this is a great time to be a junior college player. In a lot of ways, as scary as the portal is, it also just means that when those guys start filtering up to big schools and then they're all fighting it out, there's a lot of opportunity out there for a lot of good baseball players. And to that point, as a high school parent, number one, understand that JUCO baseball is young right now, but it is also and can be and will be really good because it's going to be young, but there's also going to be more and more of better high school players going junior college because they understand the opportunity it creates to get to a school that maybe they originally wanted to go to, but it was too old on that roster when they were coming out of high school.
Yeah. And let me pause you right there because I do want to add in my experience with JUCO. I'm a JUCO guy for those that are watching this that don't know. Out of my JUCO, 4 of our 4 starting pitchers all drafted. Either went D1 and got drafted or got drafted out of
Oh,
there.
baby.
The guy who played over me at second base, straight to A&M, right? The guy who played shortstop to another, I think he went to New Mexico University, right? Like everybody on my team, D1 guy afterwards for the most part, who started. So I just want to throw that out there. JUCO baseball, it is the real deal. And the reason it's the real deal is because some guys out there, they just want to get drafted. They just got the talent. And you got less years to have to spend. You go JUCO 1 year and then you're draft eligible. As
Like, I
opposed.
just think it's important. That goes exactly what that you have. I think it's scary right now to be a high school junior or senior. And that's just realistic. Like, if I was a high school junior senior, or like if I had a kid that was a high school junior senior, like, it's a difficult, or high school kid is difficult to navigate, but it's also a little intimidating because you're seeing everything that's put out there, like NIL this, portal that. It's a lot. Number one, it looks even different than maybe the people that are around you are trying to tell you how college ball is, but it's a completely different atmosphere than how it was when they were around it, or whatever the case may be. It doesn't have to be like that. I think that it's easy to think that, but it doesn't have to be that way. If anything, the opportunity is still out there just as much. I just think the choices are bigger because of the fact that JUCO is a lot more of an attractive option if I'm in high school now. But also understand that no matter where you end up, like, go somewhere where it's going to directly develop you as obviously a person, but like a person as a player, not just like this sounds good and this is going to look good on Twitter when I post it. Like, it needs to be somewhere that is conducive to you being whoever it is you wanted to be when you headed there. And if it's not, then you're going to end up in the portal anyway, because you're not going to be happy, or you're not. And if you're not able to be happy or be yourself wherever it is you ended up going, not going to be able to get the most out of whoever it is you are. And so I think just understand that relationships are really valuable now more so than ever, because of the environment that we're in, where kids are bouncing around. And like, in a lot of cases, I completely understand why they're doing it. Other cases not. And I just think, yes, know that it ain't life or death when you make that decision out of high school, because you have options to make moves if you do, let's say, mess up or something goes wrong. So I think that, like, one of the things I would leave people with, like, don't put too much pressure on a decision, because allow it to happen naturally. If you put too much pressure on it, I think a lot of people end up so different than pressing when you're playing. You end up doing too much, or doing something that maybe you normally wouldn't have done, and you end up where you aren't supposed to be, because you put so much pressure on a decision that really, like, you just got to kind of trust who you are, trust the people you talk to. And if it feels right, go with your gut. A lot of times home feels right. And at the end of the day, you're picking your next home, and it needs to feel good. If it don't feel good, it probably ain't right. And I know my little brother, for example, walked on NGU's campus out of JUCO, called me after and goes, "Dude, I just committed." I said, "What?" It's like, bro, I walked in there and I felt it. Like, I felt it inside. I was like, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And he's 4 years removed, and I know he wouldn't have it no other way. And he's got 3 rings on his fingers.
Let's go. Shout out Matthew. How can people reach out to you? Where do they find you? How can they get in contact if they're like, man, Southern Illinois, my spot, or hey, Connor Daly, this guy seems like a dope coach. He's going to be in the game for a while. Let me go play for him. How do they get in?
My email is always open, but also Twitter, Daily Vibes. It is
Daily
still
Vibes.
Daily Vibes, because I try to keep everything positive, man. And everywhere I go, I'm trying to bring good vibes. That is my Twitter, DAILEY. I respond to everybody on there. And I do talk to players on there, some that I haven't even coached. It would be randomly. So on there, my email is dayluckinsnow, connor.daly@siu.edu.
I'll put all of this below
Yeah.
in this link for YouTube.
Like, even without us having a bunch of high school kids on our roster right now, I've been to 3 straight weekends of high school camps, simply because I just like interacting with different levels of baseball, helping out where I can, spreading, vibes and wisdom where I can, trying to be a baseball guy through and through, keeping the game great.
Yeah, you definitely are doing that, man. You're doing a lot for the game, and by coming on here and giving your time and wisdom,
Always.
every person watching this, they've gotten better. They're going to take the information that they're receiving from you, and they're going to share it with their parents. Their parents are going to share it with another parent. They're going to send it, and now you've just created a trickle effect based off of the knowledge that you're providing here today. So, man,
People helping people, man.
Really appreciate it.
People helping people. Keep putting that work in.